Ladies and gentlemen, people of the internet, welcome back to yet another episode of Crypto Over Coffee. I hope you're doing well today. And if you're new here, every Saturday we break down the latest news and the hottest topics in the world of technology and cryptocurrency over a cup of delicious coffee. Now, that being said, in today's episode, I'm talking about the demise of Ethereum 2.0 as we know it and the future of Ethereum, a crypto market update, our usual 404 Logic Not Found segment, and more. So make sure you stick around for all the updates we've got in store on today's episode. And if you like crypto, please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification button if you're on YouTube, or follow the podcast on your platform of choice so you get a heads up whenever I post new episodes of Crypto Over Coffee, which again is every single Saturday. And just a friendly reminder as well, for your safety, please be aware of scammers that are across all social media platforms that are pretending to be me and other crypto YouTubers and asking for money or personal information. I will not reach out to you. I'm not going to ask you for money. And if you get a comment on YouTube specifically that asks you to contact me on WhatsApp or Telegram, just report it because it isn't me. And hopefully everyone will be safe out there today. Now, based on the headline of the video today, you're probably wondering what the heck I'm talking about by saying Ethereum 2.0 is no more. But you did read it right. This is actually a literal statement. Ethereum 2.0 as we know it is dead. See, over the last, 2 years now, plans have shifted very drastically for the eventual launch and design for what we've long called Ethereum 2.0, with proof of stake, sharding, roll-ups, all sorts of things. And given the fact that this plan for Ethereum's future now centers on a merge of the proof of stake consensus-driven chain and the existing Ethereum network state and execution environment, it's begun to feel like referring to Ethereum 1.0 and Ethereum 2.0 as the main monikers for these two chains is now more than anything kind of confusing to both new and existing users in crypto alike. And it potentially creates false narratives that one network will cease to exist while another one takes over, like a true version change. That's not really true. And that said, the Ethereum core team and community seems to feel this way as well. And they've now shifted officially from the Ethereum 1 and Ethereum 2 naming convention to names that better represent the mechanics of how Ethereum will operate post-merge. In fact, if you remember a few episodes ago, I actually explained the latest plan for the Great Merge, which essentially blends the two major operative components of Ethereum's existing mainnet and the consensus-only beacon chain with proof of stake. And I'll link that up in the description if you want to watch it. At the merge, you'll have proof of stake consensus as the engine beneath the existing execution environment for smart contracts, the one that we're used to, the one we use today. Therefore, it seems only fitting that the new official nomenclature for Ethereum pre- and post-merge is now going to shift to consensus layer, referring to the new proof-of-stake consensus environment, and quote-unquote execution layer, referring to the mainnet smart contract execution environment that we use today. And this is a great move in my opinion, because it better represents the current plan and spec for Ethereum's future. And will also hopefully put an end to the scammers using Ethereum 2.0 urgent action needed as a means to scam people. But I won't hold my breath on that. Scammers are full of ingenuity. All this being said, though, the total shift from the original Ethereum 2.0 plan and the name change are not the only updates of note, as an update was just adopted on the Ethereum execution layer, the chain we use today, to delay the proof of work difficulty bomb yet again to June of 2022. Now, this difficulty bomb, for those who are unaware, was planned to incentivize the shift to proof of stake by drastically increasing the difficulty of winning the computational race for proof of work and mining a block and getting the reward. And what this tells me is that we have a bit of a hint as to when the merge of execution layer and consensus layer to shift Ethereum to proof of stake will actually happen. Based on the progress that we've seen on the merge plan, on the code, and the upgrades on both sides of the network to prepare for all of this, my latest estimate is that the merge takes place right around that June timeframe where the difficulty bomb was delayed to. What this would equate to is that the merge takes place between 2 and 4 months from when we see the team freeze the code base and start preparing for launch of this merged Ethereum network. That code freeze will be the final checkpoint, if you will, before the merge. In terms of expectations of what's going to happen post-merge, we'll likely see a rather significant reduction of issuance of Ether by way of block production, which is what the EIP 1559 fans will be screaming about from the rooftops for days on end, I have no doubt. And we'll also finally put to bed the argument that NFTs destroy the environment, the soundbite that I see everywhere now, and that's because proof of stake has significant energy efficiency gains over proof of work. Beyond that, everyone's question is around gas fees, which I can understand. We're all affected by that. And I frankly don't think we're going to see a wholesale change there. Maybe modest improvements, but it's been made pretty clear by Vitalik and by others in the Ethereum ecosystem that it's going to be an L2-centric ecosystem. Roll-ups are going to be the answer here long term, if you had to ask me my opinion. And I know that's not what people want to hear, but it is my opinion, my view of it. There's so much demand for Ethereum block space that simply moving to proof of stake is not going to be enough to meet that demand with block space supply. I still believe Ethereum's here to stay. It will be successful long term, and I resonate with the plan that Vitalik and the Ethereum community has laid forth for Ethereum's future. So I rest in peace knowing that Ethereum is coming, and it is coming in the future as well. Rest in peace, Ethereum 2.0. Long live Ethereum. Now, our crypto market update is one that is uncharacteristically not terrible, given the recent market conditions we've been facing in the last several weeks and months. As of the time of recording, Bitcoin is up a couple percent, sitting at 37K. Ether is up nearly 5% at 2,500, and you've got altcoins in the green as well, ranging from 2 to 7% gains on the day, with standouts like Avalanche riding high at the top of that curve, up 7%. By the way, Avalanche ADA X is now available on iTrust Capital for trading in crypto IRAs. So shout out to my partners over at iTrust Capital, whose link is in the description if you want to check them out and earn $100 in Bitcoin for signing up for a crypto IRA in the US. Anyways, despite the fact that we are up in the 24-hour timescale, I would caution that you will now see people hyping up again. The Moon Boys are going to start to call for a surefire return to bullishness in the next hot price predictions that they can almost guarantee will happen. But please resist the urge to consume this confirmation bias at face value, because we all want to return to a bull market and all-time highs. We all want that. But we're not out of the woods yet on the macroeconomic and geopolitical conditions that put us in this bearish nightmare in the first place. The conversation around rate hikes could shift at any moment, for worse or for better, and we could be looking at a military conflict in various areas of the world if things don't go our way. There are uncertain times for the financial markets, and we can't forget that. This is not the time to be betting money that you need to survive on a short time scale, because quite frankly, you can lose everything in a flash during these kinds of market conditions. And if you can make well-measured, well-reasoned investments at these lower prices with a tolerance for a multi-year hold and short-term losses that will prevent you from pulling out of the market early, then by all means, more power to you. I urge caution not because I don't believe in crypto. Just want to make this clear. I believe in this space to the greatest extent humanly possible. I've bet my entire career, and I've spent my entire adolescent and adult life studying and working in this space. But I'm not here for quick money. I'm here for the long term. If we go down another 50% tomorrow, my day-to-day life won't change. I'll be able to pay my bills. I can wait for years for this market to become what I think it will. And there are many people who bet way too much thinking gains are guaranteed. And I understand why you'd feel that way. But I don't want to see more people's lives crushed by losses in a speculative market because they bought the hype and didn't know where the risks were. So please be risk aware. Make a plan. Don't wager money you can't afford to live without. It really is that simple to get started. So please be safe out there, folks. Now, next up is a story that I think is very relevant and very important for people to understand, especially given that risk discussion we just had. And that is the latest high-profile hack of the Qubit Finance qBridge protocol on Binance Smart Chain, which netted losses to the tune of 80 million in a recent exploit. This is yet another example of how smart contracts in the context of a DeFi protocol or bridge are exploited to drain funds under management when they are locked in that smart contract custody. This is shockingly prevalent, and users still willingly dive headfirst into experimental and sometimes unaudited DeFi protocols searching for yield. It makes no sense. But last year, I said repeatedly that bridge hacks were the new frontier for high-profile hacks and losses, and I'm sad to say that this has rung true in terms of predictions, and not all my predictions are true. In what seems like a form of smart contract aikido, hackers are able to use qBridge's own functionality against it in this case. And that was by tricking the smart contract into thinking the hacker had deposited millions of dollars worth of wrapped ether on the cross-chain protocol. And then the hacker subsequently used that illegally minted wrapped ether to drain the smart contract of Binance Coin in exchange. Most of these exploits happen in this similar way, or using the same fundamental strategy, which is tricking the contract into coughing up funds when it isn't supposed to. Despite the name, mind you, smart contracts are not smart. They can't decide to deviate from their programmed functionality like a sentient human being would. So when you deposit funds to be managed on one end of a bridge or protocol in a smart contract, you are putting blind trust in a developer to have done their job and thought of all of the little areas where that contract can be exploited. So it's important that you do your own due diligence for that reason. And even more important for every single DeFi protocol, specifically bridges, to do long full scope audits before launch. Spend the money, spend the time. It should not be negotiable. I feel terrible for everyone who's affected by these things and this latest hack, and I hope that the culture shifts to make this less prevalent in the future. Full scope audits, please. In other news, after a rough ride in the market, this overall crypto crash has done a lot to Sandbox, but the metaverse project Sandbox rallied both in price and sentiment in the wake of two tangible partnership announcements that I think were significant enough to make it onto the Crypto Over Coffee list for today. First, legendary rapper Snoop Dogg announced his collaboration with Sandbox would manifest itself as a collection of 10,000 Snoop Dogg avatars that would be available in the Sandbox metaverse. Pretty cool. And secondly, I think even more importantly, no offense to Snoop Dogg, Sandbox announced a deeper collaboration with the massive record label Warner Music to create a whole theme park space in the Sandbox metaverse where Warner Music artists can engage with fans and create experiences in this digital medium. This part is pretty huge because this is the first instance that I'm aware of where you have an entire community of artists that will have a sort of blank slate creative space to build experiences in the metaverse to engage with fans and potentially introduce themselves to net new fans that are in the crypto space natively. So I can't wait to explore the Warner Music theme park myself, see what kind of things get built there, because this is just the beginning for this type of collaboration with big enterprise and big brand owners and the metaverse. Now, it is time for Rational Reactions, a new segment on the show where I read headlines from tech and crypto-related publications, mostly crypto, and give you my instant rational reaction. So let me jump over to the computer and we can go ahead and get started with the stories that we've got on the list for today. All right, first question of the day and a quick little coffee break if you don't mind. Thank you, Onyx Coffee Roasters, for the coffee today. Fantastic coffee. Eugenoides again. All right, first story. Questions are coming later. First story is on CoinDesk. Crypto has parallels with subprime mortgage crisis, says Paul Krugman. The Economist sees evidence that the risks of crypto are falling on those who don't know what they're getting into and are less able to handle the downsides. This is a complex one because Paul Krugman has traditionally had very bad takes, including the takes about the internet, which basically stated that there would be no greater effect on the rest of the market than the fax machine. Bad take, okay? And I'm paraphrasing. That's not the exact quote, but it's still pretty terrible. Krugman, I think, is completely wrong on crypto. Actually, one of my first videos on this channel was about Paul Krugman's one of his first comments about crypto. Comparing crypto to the subprime mortgage crisis is completely misleading in my opinion, first of all, because the subprime mortgage crisis was a much different situation than you do have with crypto. However, there is a point here that I actually agree with, which is that people don't know what they're getting into a lot of the times. People that are getting into crypto that are overextending because they're being promised gains are people who are less able to handle the downside. That is also true. And when this market deflates like it has in the recent times, people get hurt. And that's not what we want. So while I would say that Krugman's evaluation of crypto is holistically incorrect, some of the concerns he brings up here are important for people to note because a lot of these are startups at the end of the day, and the odds for startups are not very good, okay? They're not good. We're talking 80, 90% in some cases failure rate for startups. So we need to be very careful about saying, oh, crypto is, because crypto is the future, because decentralized technology is the future, all these investments are going to be good, because that's not actually true. So while I think Krugman's take on crypto is almost wholesomely wrong, there is some truth to what he's saying here. And people might not like to hear that, but it's true. Next one is from CoinDesk as well. OpenSea's week from hell. The dominant NFT marketplace remains stubbornly hands-off in its approach to controversy. I've been a longtime defender and believer in OpenSea, and that time has now pretty much come to an end because OpenSea has made tons and tons and tons of revenues. We're talking billions, and they still have not fixed even the most basic problems. And not only that, you have the tumult around OpenSea's controversy met with pretty much zero response from them in terms of listening. And then the time when they open up this random support Twitter to fix the support issues, which are not fixed, mind you, by a Twitter account, one of the first tweets is that they're changing the rules around the size of collections, which puts artists on the platform in a really bad position. So if you're trying to fix creator tools, don't create a new problem for people without even spending time for public comment. I mean, this is just not the way that this stuff should be happening. And I think it's really sad that what started as a fantastic product, a fantastic place for people to realize the benefits of NFTs, has now been turned into a bastion for controversy. And it's a poster child for a lot of the things that are wrong in the NFT space. It's very frustrating. I'm not saying OpenSea can't fix it, but I'm saying the time is running out to fix it. There are competitors left and right that want to take market share from OpenSea, and it will be hard to do so even with the controversy because OpenSea is so deeply cemented in the space. But they really need to do some work here, and they need to be more hands-on and direct in their communications with people about this stuff. Just my opinion. Another one from CoinDesk. We're kind of CoinDesk heavy today, which is fine. Arizona senator introduces bill to make Bitcoin legal tender. The U.S. Constitution does not allow individual states to create their own legal tender. I'm excited by the fact that this bill even made it to see the light of day, but I have almost zero confidence that this is going to pass. Not only for the reason that was in the subtext of this headline, which is that from my understanding as well, and based on people that I've spoken to who are legal professionals, I am not one, mind you, this is not allowed. So while I think it's good from the perspective that there are people thinking like this and thinking we need some other legal tender options, and you see countries around the world doing this, especially in Latin America, well, I think that's a cool idea. I don't think this is going to go anywhere. So it's one of those things that's theoretically cool, but not really feasible for people to actually see happen in the near future. What I do think is more important is that rather than creating bills like this, creating bills that create regulatory frameworks that start at the state level that can then be applied at the federal level. So we don't have this sort of regulation and rulemaking by enforcement thing that we've been doing, which does not work. Well, works, but is very bad. That's my thought. So cool idea, not likely to be executed, but very interesting nonetheless. Last story of the day is from Cointelegraph. LeBron James and Crypto.com team up for blockchain education initiative. The education initiative aims to help 1,600 school children in LeBron James's hometown, but not every Crypto.com user seems to be happy about the partnership. I really like this because this show is about education, as you very well know if you've watched the show for any amount of time. And so I really respect the idea that we're trying to educate children, especially that need to learn about things in the finance space when they aren't actually taught that. I went to public school in the United States in a very good school system, and I didn't learn pretty much anything about economics and about finance, about personal finance, about crypto didn't really exist back then, but about anything that was new and unique. That needs to change. So I like this idea, but I understand why Crypto.com users might be a little bit annoyed because you're looking at all these partnerships that have been cropping up. You're looking at these ads with famous actors on TV, and people are thinking, well, where is this investment in communicating with your users in light of a recent hack? Where is this money in terms of improving customer service? And this goes back to the discussion around OpenSea. When you have funds, you have money, you need to spend it first on making the experience good for your users and then focusing on other stuff. And I think that's what people are frustrated about. So again, it's one of those double-edged swords. I love what they're doing around education. I think this partnership is great, but I think there's issues in the allocation and the priorities that this is putting out there, like how it's representing the priorities from crypto.com. So what do you think about all my takes on these stories? These are my reactions, but I'm just one guy. Let me know what you think about these stories in the comments below. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for 404 Logic Not Found, and for those of you who are as of yet uninitiated in this little firecracker of a segment, I highlight notable tech-related fails or otherwise stupid moves in the world that need to get some attention. Speaking of attention, if you want to help this episode of Crypto Over Coffee get some attention from the algorithm robots who control these types of things, please hit the like button on YouTube. Please get subscribed, follow the podcast, literally whatever you can do to tell those robots that you're enjoying the content and others might also enjoy it. And I thank you for that in advance as well. This week, I have to admit, it was kind of tough for me to pick what 404 was going to be because there were so many dumb things going on. So I had lots of options, which is actually pretty good. But you probably know where I'm going to focus, and that's the latest installment of ill-advised crypto-related legislation tucked surreptitiously inside a larger bill in the US Congress. It's like we're playing Jeopardy these days with this topic. Okay, I'll take ill-advised crypto legislation for 400. I mean, out of control. Anyways, in the ironically named America Competes Act bill, there was a provision tucked away that had already been tried and thwarted in the past, as far as I know. And this provision has broad implications for privacy, crypto, and a variety of other financial services in society. The provision effectively removes a few checks to the power that exists on an already massive power that the Secretary of Treasury has to target money laundering by requiring reporting or outright prohibition of certain transactions deemed to be a concern for money laundering therein. However, there is currently a check to that power, aforementioned, in form of a public notice and limitation period of 120 days when that power is used to surveil via special measures a transaction or transactions plural, as well as a requirement for public rulemaking procedure to be followed to enforce a prohibition under these rules. So those are the kind of two checks. And in both cases of prohibition or surveillance, the public has a chance to let their voice be heard on the matter. And this new provision would expand the definition of what those rules cover in terms of special measures and remove the public rulemaking requirement and 120-day limitation period according to reports. In effect, this means that prohibition can occur without public process or rulemaking and can be upheld for what seems to be an indefinite period of time, which affects not only cryptocurrency, but all financial transactions. And I'm no lawyer or policy specialist, so bear that in mind. But whether you like and use crypto or not, this would affect you. I don't know about you, but I don't like the idea of appointed officials being able to prohibit financial transactions without any accountability or process to abide by. The fact that this has been yet again tossed haphazardly into a bill that is likely to pass as a way to quietly get it done is offensive and unethical. But not only that, this provision is antithetical to the title of the bill. If America wants to compete, this is not the way to compete with our international rivals. This is how we lose. Or are we simply trying to compete on the basis of financial surveillance? Either way, it's a 404 Logic Not Found, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it as well. Now, before we dive into Q&A, I would like to thank the sponsor of today's show, Syscoin, a blockchain network that uses merge mining to derive security from the proof-of-work Bitcoin blockchain for its own UTXO network. More specifically, I want to share with you some of the technology that Syscoin has recently launched that appeals to me the most, and personally, I would like to draw attention to the Network Enhanced Virtual Machine, or NEVM, which is the new smart contract execution environment on the network. The NEVM provides a platform for programmability akin to other virtual machine blockchains, or Ethereum virtual machine blockchains specifically, atop the UTXO blockchain network with Bitcoin merge mining on Syscoin, blending some of the best elements of Ethereum-like chains and Bitcoin. The NEVM's introduction as the main smart contract execution environment for Syscoin came with improvements as well to the underlying blockchain network to accommodate future developments on the roadmap around layer 2 rollups for scalability, for example. And the most notable of those changes were the idea of chainlocks, which are a mechanism for establishing finality, fast finality for blocks of transactions on the network based on economic commitment from validators. In other words, economic levers or skin in the game from validators. Probably familiar with this idea. In many ways, Syscoin has taken inspiration from various ecosystems in crypto and brought some of the critical components from each of those places together, which has resulted in technical write-ups and theory and research that I've really enjoyed reading, as well as a roadmap for 2022 that includes rollups and zero-knowledge proofs, two pieces of technology I've researched a ton over the last year and a half, maybe even more. So I'll link up a few pieces of reading material about the latest roadmap and tech for you to peruse at your leisure. And remember, this nor any of my other videos, sponsored or not, are a call to action to buy tokens of any kind. My content is squarely focused on education and inspiring you to dive in and learn more about the tech in this space. So thank you very much for that. And with that, let's do some community Q&A. I always answer questions from folks who watch the show, and I've got some questions from last week's episode that I'm going to answer. And I want to remind you that if you have a question that you want answered, any question goes. Leave them in the comments below on YouTube, or if you're listening on the podcast platforms and you don't have access to the comments, you can tweet me at Hashoshi4 as well. And with that, let's dive into the questions. Over here on the computer, got a few of these ready to go here, and we'll get through as many of them as I possibly can. Question is from Johnny D000. Hey Hashoshi, what do you think of the problem with NFTs by folding ideas on YouTube? So this was this 2-hour long, I'm going to give it more respect. It was not a hit piece on NFTs. It was an opinion piece on NFTs. And it just so happened to be negative towards NFTs, which I know a lot of us who like NFTs don't like. There were a lot of really good points in there. There were a lot of really bad ones, but there were a lot of really good points in that video. And people have asked me, oh, can you make a 2-hour long response or rebuttal to that video? And quite frankly, I don't think I'm going to. I might create a shorter video that maybe addresses some of the points in there. But I think ultimately there will always be detractors, and there will always be people who don't like a space that we're in, who doubt a space, who identify the negative things and forget the positive things. Those are things we can't afford to dwell on in this space. We need to keep building and improving and identifying and being objective about the things that aren't good about NFTs, because there's lots of things that aren't good. There's lots of cash grabs, no utility on a lot of NFTs, lots of art that's been stolen from other places and repurposed. And so there's a lot of maturing that needs to happen. And so a lot of the things that were mentioned in that video will go away and will be addressed as this market matures around NFTs and the technology around NFTs matures. So that's what I'll say there. Those are my thoughts. I think it's actually positive for those types of things to come out, but it's even more positive and more important for us in response as this community, in response to those types of things, to not react in an angry, dismissive, and especially not in a rhetorically violent way towards people who have different opinions than us, because it doesn't really help our cause. We need to be thinking about this in a well-reasoned way and taking those things into heart and building to fix them. I think it's that simple. So those would be my thoughts, Johnny. Thank you very much. Next question is from Kevron Creates. What's your opinion of the Milkomeda as an L2 on Cardano? And it's just Milkomeda, not my apologies. I had Nicholas DePrima on my show a while back to talk about Milkomeda, which is an Ethereum compatible layer 2 in the Cardano ecosystem. I think it's something that a lot of people are excited about, because they think, okay, well, let's port Ethereum applications to the Cardano space, and that will be helpful for adoption, and in many ways it will be. Here's the thing I want people to think about. You will look at more so the benefit here, not Ethereum applications that are built on Ethereum coming over, but more so people who have skills in building in the Ethereum space around Solidity and EVM, the EVM tech stack, the Ethereum virtual machine tech stack, building on this side of things, on the Cardano side of things. That's really what the benefit is. And so I don't want people to think of this like a let's take market share from existing Ethereum applications, but more so let's appeal to a wider set of skills, because not everyone is going to want to learn or have the capability from a time perspective to learn Haskell and subsequently Plutus in order to build applications natively using Cardano's native smart contract functionality. So I think it's really good in terms of diversity, allowing more diverse development communities to build things on Cardano, and also it will give users the ability to have a familiar user experience to what they're used to on Ethereum, with a lot of the benefits around scalability and around the ecosystem in Cardano. Those are my thoughts. Pretty big fan. If you want to learn more about it, there is a video on Milkomeda, the layer 2 for Cardano, on my channel. Thank you, Kevron, for your question. And the last question of the day is from Matthew J. Love the show. Thank you very much. I'm really interested in getting into NFTs, but I don't have a fortune to drop on them. I feel like I'm missing the boat and it's setting sail, or as it's setting sail. Are there ways to buy into NFTs without breaking the bank? So I think a lot of people are trying to buy NFTs on Ethereum, and you have gas wars, you have a lot of time commitment in getting on the allow lists for different mints for these NFTs, and you have, of course, the insane fees in general, maybe even insane base prices for the mints of these NFTs. It's not accessible to a lot of people. Then you have NFTs on Solana, on Cardano, on Icon, on Secret Network, and all these different places that are more accessible, but more accessible price-wise, but maybe not as accessible in terms of ease of use. How easy is it to find instructions on how to get involved, how to buy one? It's maybe a new wallet, a new cryptocurrency you don't have yet. That's the tough thing. Here's the key. Don't feel like you're missing out. Don't feel that FOMO to jump into PFP projects, because only a select few of these profile picture projects and like digital art projects are going to succeed. And a few of them who look like they're succeeding are actually not that successful at all. You just have a really concentrated number of holders that sort of just trade with each other and buy from each other. It really doesn't make sense. It doesn't bode well. You've got a lot of that like wash sale stuff going on. What I would say is, in terms of the NFT space, you should try and find a few communities within one of your favorite layer 1 chains that you believe is accessible to you in terms of resources, like how much you can spend, that you really resonate with in terms of the art or the utility. And of course, bearing in mind local regulations where you are is also important. In that case, then you can start building up a small collection over time, but you have to understand that a lot of JPEGs, a lot of NFTs are not liquid. And so you might not be able to get that money back out. So you should be comfortable with the fact that you bought something that you appreciate from an art perspective and not expect huge profits in return. That would be my biggest piece of advice, because the thing people think about on NFTs is they're missing the boat, they're missing instant profits. There's no such thing. So I really, really want to say you can get into NFTs in a cheaper way in different ecosystems outside of Ethereum, but just please be careful and please understand that a lot of times you're not going to make money on them. Thank you for your question. And thank you to everyone who watches or listens to this and every other episode of Crypto Over Coffee. I really, really appreciate it. If you have some time to stick around, I'll leave links to a couple of other interesting videos that you might want to watch in the crypto space or in the privacy and security space. But most of all, I wish you and your family a wonderful week and weekend ahead. And until next time, cheers.